Human origins, according to anthropology, research were found in the sunny south of the globe. World migration. You see how the point started in the Rift Valley. This is also the area called the Congo, Southern Congo, Tanzania. This is where man is believed to be the oldest found on the planet. This so far, remember, this is not written in stone. This is what they found so far. In later years, they may find something older and older, and you'll find that they're not going to rewrite the history books. You have to rewrite your timeline to incorporate the new information in. So you see how they believe that we started in Central Africa and migrated north and west, and then north and then south, and some of us went into Southern Africa. Now, the reason why I'm interrupting this video, because videos like these have not been updated. Some of these dates are old, like when it just said the ice age was 70,000 years ago. Right? That ice age was not in Africa. That was European ice age. Because understand, when we hear his story, it is only his story, not our story. We have to make the distinctions. See how it said the earth entered its coldest? It wasn't the whole earth. It was the what we call today the northern part of the earth went into colder. And here we're traveling into Cambodia, traveling into Australia, right? Remember what the Leucoderm said, that at this time, the only people on the planet were Africans. So as you delve into these ancient cultures, all of this is part of your culture. Here we go into China. Here we coming in through Russia, coming down into Europe, and another group of us comes in from from the Middle East, and we join up with these other groups. As you can see in the animation, the ice is coming down. Okay. 25,000 years ago, there still was no ice age in Africa. Here we see the ice is receding, and Africans, which they called Native Americans, were coming across the straits and coming into the Americas. We called them, because of a lack of a better phrase, Indians or natives, but these are also descendants of the same Africans that came out of Africa, that went into China and became the Chinese people before the people you see there today. Similar facial features, but most of the people that you see on TV from China are pale skin. Many of the Chinese are very dark-skinned people, but they just don't show that on TV. You have to go into the archaeological records and read through all of their books just to get a little pearl that, oh, these were Africans? Okay. So even this, you see, because this is what they taught me back in high school. 15,000 years ago, the first humans crossed the Bering Straits into America. We now know the first humans did not come 15,000 years ago. There was people here before these people came into the Americas. Now they know through archaeological research. They found skulls here in America 40 and 50,000 years old that were clearly African in features. Here we show us going down into South America. And see, this was their findings years ago. 12,000 years ago, the agricultural revolution began. It started way before that. They're finding new evidence that we were cultivating plants 20, 30, 40,000 years ago. But the narrative that they tell you is that agriculture started in Mesopotamia, not in Africa, mainly because they want to create their root coming out of the Middle East, otherwise called India, European languages. They even tell you that their language is not of Europe, it comes out of India. So here, for those of us that are not clear with the map, here we have Africa, Arabia, and India. These are modern terms that are used, like we spoke about the other day. This is a common word that we are using. This is not the name that our ancients gave to the continent. Matter of fact, they didn't give a name to the whole continent. People gave names to their areas, not to the whole continent. This ice age that had very little effect upon the African continent. 75,000 years ago, they have found through archaeological research, which debunks this universal ice age. They found a 75,000-year-old African calendar in around this area in southern Africa. So if there was an ice age, what are we doing building megalithic stones in Africa? Because Africa didn't have an ice age. That was in the what we call the northern climates. Here are some pictures of people in Arabia today. As you see, they are not pale white people. Here is India, sometimes called Indus Kush, taken from the name that the Greeks who traveled into India said that the people in India look exactly and have the religious practices of people in Kush. So they called them Indus Kush. This is what, and these are modern pictures of what the Indus Kush people look like. You don't see these pictures when you see Hollywood productions of India or even travel logs of India. But these are the native people of India. Here are some of the sculptures. Look at this sculpture. You cannot say that's not a black man. This is sculptures coming out of India, ancient sculptures. Here's another sculpture to the left. And here's another sculpture. And here's another sculpture. You see the the curly locks or the curly hair that we still do with today's hair stylists. Some of us have this hairstyle today. Here's here here is a modern picture of Indus Kush people living in India. They make me look like a white man. They are so chocolate. Now we just gonna slide into what the people of Cambodia look like today. You see here some of the genetic mutations that was happening, right? Only in the hair and sometimes the eyes, you'll find black people with blonde hair and blue eyes. Australia, you see the color of the people of the Australians. Sumer, here we have Arabia to the left, and this red circular is what we call Sumer. It was also called Mesopotamia, and it's also called Babylon at different stages of its development. That's in this area right here, right? This is where the Tigris and the Euphrates is. And it was called Meso, meaning middle, between the two rivers. This is not an ancient name. The word Mesopotamia is not an ancient name. Sumer, on the other hand, is an ancient name. And these are some of the sculptures that they found in Sumer. You see what the phenotype is? The phenotype is a word that's used in the scientific arena, meaning the physical body type, the phenotype. Now we're going into China. China. Here are some old black and white photographs. Now we know photography is not ancient, but look at the color of the people that are in this photograph. Look at the locks on the people that are in the top photograph. These are people that are living in China today. Now here, I want to show you where the phenotype came from. This image up here that looks oriental but has the kinky hair, this is not a Chinese person. This is a person from Central Africa in the Kalahari Desert. They are called the Twa people or Mbutu. You've heard of them as the Pygmies. These are the genetic ancestors to the Orientals. Look at the phenotype of the face. This is where the Orientals get their facial features from. Africans that traveled into the continent. This is another Khoisan of Central Africa. Look at the facial features and compare it to a native Chinese person that I'm showing you up here. Now, in his book, Sex and Race, he goes into further detail and gives pictures of some of these people. This is one of the first books. I was taught this verbally, that Africans was all over the world, but I didn't have any pictures until I read J.A. Rogers' book called Sex and Race, the Negro Caucasian mixing in all ages and all lands. He has pictures. This is what solidified me to knowing that our people are all over the planet. What we're seeing on TV is lies, 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 and more lies. It makes us think that the leucoderms are all over the world, and actually they make up only 7% of the world population. The United States itself, including all the different nationalities, only makes up 5% of the world population total. But yet we see the world through the eyes of Western culture. We don't go, some of us don't go and search on our own to find other information that is more Afrocentric. So again, if once you get the PDF version, you click on these images and you'll be able to download these ebooks. Here is by Ivan Van Sertimer and Dr. Runoko Rashidi. Runoko Rashidi is one of my elders, a little bit older. He is now an ancestor. So is Dr. Ivan Van Sertimer. But they came together and they put together a book called African Presence in Early Asia. And they have pictures, right, that you can look at and you see the African features on these sculptures. Runoko Rashidi, J.A. Rogers.
In 1998, the proceedings of the National Academy of Science concluded a study by the Chinese Human Genome Diversity Project and made public their findings, which stated that most of the population of modern China, 1/5 of all the people living today, owes its genetic origins to Africa. The study was the result of a consortium of several leading research groups in the People's Republic of China in combination with the Human Genetics Center at the University of Texas Health Center in Houston, Texas. In addition to genetic evidence linking China to Africa, archaeological evidence has recorded close to 100 pyramids that are located in a 100-kilometer area around the city of Xi in central China. I can't help but wonder, why are these pyramids shrouded in mystery? What are they hiding? This site is also well known as the location of the famous life-size terracotta warriors. Further study of this history and art of the Shang and the Zhou dynasties in China will reveal even more African influence. This information and evidence points to a clear interaction and anthropological connection to China's African roots.
China's first dynasty and emperor were Africoid, or of black origins. Founded by King Te, the earliest documented rulership in China was the Shang or the Xiang dynasty. The Shang were credited with unifying China's earliest elements to form their first civilization. The Shang were given the name the Naki, Na meaning black and Qi meaning man. The first Chinese emperor, the legendary Fuxi, was a woolly-haired black man. Among his credits are establishing government and originating social institutions, as well as cultural inventions. He is said to be the originator of the I Ching, the Book of Change. It is among the oldest and most revered system of philosophy. Emperor Hung Wu was founder of the Great Ming Dynasty of China. He was African, Sudanese, and Mongolian descent and was also a Muslim. The skills that set the foundation for Shaolin Kung Fu descend from India and Africoid origins. Even in the White Garment Hall of the Shaolin Monastery in Hunan, province of China, there are 12-foot-long paintings of Chinese and Africoid Shaolin monks training boxing skills together. Although not promoted and somewhat hidden, it shows striking evidence of the deep interrelation of Africa, the martial arts, and Asia. There have been efforts made to cover up the facts. Even the original Chinese, called Li Min, and the Ainu of Japan were Africans. Also, there are books written to prove this fact,
such as The African Presence in Early Asia, authors Dr. Ivan van Sertima and Runoko Rashidi, and African Star Over Asia, The Black Presence in the Early East by Runoko Rashidi, and there are many others.
China's first dynasty and emperor, founded by King Ta, who was black. The earliest documented rulership of China was the Shang dynasty from 1500 to 1008 BC, which is credited with bringing together the elements of China's earliest civilization. The Shang was given the name Naki under the Black Dynasty. The Black Chinese established the basic form of graceful calligraphy that has lasted to the present day. The first Chinese emperor, the legendary Fuhis, was without a doubt black, and his African brothers and sisters established government, social institutions, and cultural inventions. They are credited with the creation of the I Ching, or the Book of Change, which is the oldest, most revered system of prophecy. It is known to have influenced the most distinguished philosophers of Chinese thought. These African offspring were responsible for the building of China's earth mounds pyramids, which are today mistaken for hills due to their eroded appearance and size. The pyramids in Japan are not made of stone indigenous to Japan. It is said that small black people built them during the Mu civilization. We know that the pyramids built around the world were all built by black people, as no other people have a history of building pyramids, judging by the contents of all the pyramids.
There are people who will dispute this fact. However, I challenge anyone to take a good, honest look at the contents of the pyramids throughout the world and find out who the builders of the pyramids are based on the contents of the pyramids. And you will find that they are inevitably black people. And there are also people who try to reduce our content as being racist. This is not true. As a matter of fact, it's far from the truth. What we are truth tellers. We challenge anybody to research any of the videos and any of the information that we find, and you will see that we are not racist at all. We are simply telling the truth about our people. Telling our truth, our story. We'd also like to point out that in a genetic study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Genetics, scientists found evidence that the first Africans arrived in China around 60,000 years ago. Population researcher and geneticist Li Jin said, "Our work shows that modern people came to Southeast Asia and then moved to northern China. This supports the idea that modern people came from Africa. In later ages, they were responsible in 210 for constructing an elaborate tomb for Shen Shi Hujuan. His body is guarded by an army of soldiers, warriors made out of the terracotta. They are also credited with building the Great Wall of China." That's right, folks. Black people had a very big hand in the building of the Great Wall of China. This is very interesting because this is a little known fact. I repeat, there is strong evidence that the Great Wall of China was built by black people. There is also evidence of a substantial population of blacks in early China. Archaeological studies have located an infrastructure which was inhabited by blacks in early Chinese history, and reports of major kingdoms ruled by blacks are frequent in Chinese documents. In the earliest Chinese history, several texts in classical books spoke of these diminutive blacks. The Toruli, composed under the dynasty of Tivu, 1122 to 249 BC, give description of the inhabitants with black features. Chinese folklore speak often of these blacks and mention an emperor of Chinese named Li, 373 to 397. He was companion of the emperor Xiao Wen of Wei, who was spoken of as being black African, and the kingdom of blacks in the southwest of China. Chinese folklore speak often of these blacks and mention an emperor of Chinese named Li, companion of the emperor Xiao Wen of Wei, who was spoken of being black African, and the kingdom of blacks in the southwest of China. The sacred Manchu dynasty shows a great multitude of black people. Emperor Po Yi of the Manchu Kawa, direct descendants of the Manchu ruler of China, is most distinctly black. Chinese Chronicle reports that a black empire existed in the south of China at the beginning of the country's history. So you see, folks, black people were there at the very beginning. In Sheikh Anta Diop's writing, African Origin of Civilization, the ancient black royal house of China, 1766, 1100 BC, called the Shang, contributed mightily to China's earliest known civilization. Now, this history is a little known fact in black history. The fact that black people were at the very beginning of the Chinese Empire lets us know that we have a history that is unexplored and that is many times, unfortunately, hidden from us. The truth of the matter is, we don't need to take a backseat to anybody, because oftentimes you will find that we were there at the very beginning of the establishments of great, great civilizations. The Black Excellence and Abundance channel, where black history is every day. Thanks for watching.
Who are the ancestors of the Chinese? There has been a great debate on that since Chinese civilization is as ancient as Greece and Rome. But nobody ever knew where Chinese people came from. They wanted to know how the Chinese race originated, but no data existed. But now, a study of the Chinese genomes has revealed striking evidence about China's roots in Black Africa. But what does that really mean? What more evidence proves China's roots in Africa? Welcome to a new episode of Black Culture Diary, a channel where we talk about less known and hidden black history, culture, arts, and lost civilization. We scrutinize history here to bring the black culture back on the surface again. In this episode, we will disclose how the Chinese civilization and Chinese people are actually Africans who migrated. You will know how people in China are an evolved form of black Africans. Let's get started. Number 1. Genetic evidence. It was not easy to find the genetic relationship between people earlier. For example, before DNA and gene testing, there was no way to find out whether a man was the father of a boy or not. But after DNA and gene testing, things changed. That's when genetic engineers and biologists started thinking about knowing the genetic roots of different races on the planet. That's how in 1998, the National Academy of Science concluded its study called the Chinese Human Genome Diversity Project. This was done to find out whose genes the Chinese people carry and the diversity in them. But how does that work? Well, the same way as DNA testing is done. On a cellular level, DNA shows bands or patterns. Hence, when DNA testing is done, these patterns are seen to know the similarity in the pattern. The degree of similarity determines how close or far two individuals are on a genetic basis. In 1998, when the National Academy of Science in China revealed the study's findings, the world was shocked. Nobody had expected that about 1/5 of the Chinese population would have genes similar to black Africans. In other words, they had distinctive genes, showing the same pattern as that of black Africans. It's clear genetic evidence that most people in China still carry genes that show they have genetic roots in Africa. It should be noted that 20% of the Chinese population carry black genes, which means that almost all Chinese came from Africa as black people. Even after hundreds of thousands of years, they still carry genes that show African roots. That's something striking. With time, due to interbreeding, the genes become submissive, and ultimately, they vanish. However, in this case, it's different. After thousands of years, black genes still dominate and make up 20% of Chinese people. This simply means that black genes have more survival chances and superior traits. That's why they have not been replaced. Before we continue further, tell us, are you enjoying the video? If yes, please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on black culture, history, civilization, and natural superiority. Let's continue now. Number 2, archaeological evidence. Africans, especially the Egyptians, have been obsessed with building gigantic structures like the pyramids of Giza. Shaping and moving gigantic stone blocks weighing tons was a feat which is impossible to comprehend today. However, Egypt is not the only place where pyramids are found, suggesting that Africans, when they migrated, took this construction style with them. Since archaeologists say that Africa was where humans originated and migrated to other parts of the world, it might be true that the Chinese emperors and dynasties were the earliest manifestation of black African roots. Today, there are about 100 pyramids in the city of Xi'an. These are the pyramids located at the mausoleum of the first Qin emperor, also known as the Terracotta Army. The mausoleum is located approximately 30 kilometers east of the city of Xi'an in Shanxi province. Something to notice is the mausoleum was constructed in the late 3rd century BCE as the final resting place of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. We are talking about 5,000 years ago when the pyramids of Giza were being constructed. That's clear proof that black Africans were the people who built the pyramids in Xi'an. However, some disagree, saying these pyramids are just hills due to erosion. But there are more striking signs that small black people built these pyramids during the Mu civilization. The pyramids built around the world were all built by black people, based on the contents of the pyramids. Some people dispute this fact, but researchers are challenged to examine the contents of the pyramids throughout the world to find out who the builders are. Examining the content, engineering, and techniques of the Giza pyramids and Xi'an city pyramids is not difficult. However, no archaeologist has ever done so simply to avoid discovering a link between Chinese and African civilizations. This raises another question. Where are the Chinese emperors black? This question will be answered in the next piece of evidence we will tell you about. Number 3, China's first dynasty and emperors were black. China's rich history includes the fact that its first dynasty and emperor, King Tu, were of Africoid or black origins. The Shang dynasty, which followed, was the earliest documented rulership in China, and is credited with unifying the country's earliest elements to form its first civilization. Under the Black dynasty, they were given the name Naki, meaning black man in Chinese. Calling an emperor. Black man is not a coincidence and does not pass without reason. It simply suggests that the entire dynasty had black roots. Fuxi, the legendary first Chinese emperor, was a woolly-haired black man who is said to have established government, social institutions, and cultural inventions, including the Book of Change, which is one of the oldest and most revered systems of philosophy. Their physical features have been noted, proving they manifested their black roots, unlike today's Chinese. Not much time had passed back then, and there were clear indications in Chinese emperors of their black roots. Emperor Hongwu, a Muslim of Sudanese and Mongolian descent, founded the Great Ming Dynasty and left a lasting impact on China. The skills that set the foundation for Shaolin Kung Fu are believed to have descended from both Indian and Africoid origins, and evidence of the deep interrelation between Africa and martial arts in Asia can be seen in the White Garment Hall of the Shaolin Monastery in Hunan Province. Not only that, but archaeological studies have located an infrastructure inhabited by blacks in early Chinese history, with reports of major kingdoms ruled by blacks frequent in Chinese documents. Chinese folklore and classical books speak of diminutive blacks with black features. Emperor Xiao Wenwei and Emperor Shan were spoken of as black African, and there were kingdoms of blacks in southwest China. The sacred Manchu dynasty shows a great multitude of black people. Emperor Po Yi of the Manchu Kawa is most distinctly black. Chinese chronicles report that a black empire existed in South China at the beginning of the country's history. All this suggests that China's roots in Africa are not merely a claim but a fact backed up by evidence. However, if you try to research and find archaeological records, you will be surprised to see that none exist for ordinary people. All records that create a link between Chinese and African civilizations have been either removed or suppressed. Not only that, But even after the genetic evidence proving China's roots in Africa, some archaeologists are biased not to believe in the pyramids found in Xi'an City. However, they cannot deny it because if they did, they would have to prove that the pyramids are different, which in reality are not. You will find in no available history books that major contributors and even the establishment of the Chinese dynasties were black people. They just don't want that to spread. Black people did not come as conquerors or invaders, imposing their own culture on China. Rather, they were native Chinese having features similar to black Africans. Did you know black Africans are the ancestors of Chinese people? What do you think? Are black African ancestors of other races as well? Let us know in the comments section right below. Does not all this prove all races were born from black Africans? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody is talking about: the black culture, civilization, history, and the evidence proving black superiority. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.